you earned your spot, right? You did all those steps. You've been in all those meetings. You've built those slide decks. That is hard work. The advent of new tools makes it more accessible for everyone.
Well, I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But I don't think they know good from bad.
Yeah.
But you can be a good prompt engineer and a thinker and create pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a certain instinctual thing too that comes from like being a master mechanic.
Yep.
Say versus putting a computer up against it. But I think AI's going to take over advertising. It is.
Shade isn't a place you hide. It's where you pause, where you think, where real work happens. Quietly, creatively, and authentically. No slides, no filters. Just candid conversation about a story worth telling. It's not about villains. This is where brand builders, creatives, and storytellers come to share the stories they usually don't tell in pitch decks or press releases. It's about the people who work behind the scenes, challenge the obvious, bend the rules, or build unforgettable brands. This is
Shady Characters.
I'm really excited to dive into this because I know that we're going to get some great stories here today. Today we've got Lee Kovel. Lee Kovel is co-founder of Creativalytics, formerly of Kovel Fuller. And Lee, what I've loved about Lee, getting to know him, is I feel like you have such a wealth of experience and some great stories about kind of what we would call the ad agency in its heyday. And you've kind of seen this evolution into current day and age and stayed really relevant. You know, we were talking AI tools one of the more recent times that I talked to you, but I have a feeling you didn't start in AI tools. You've been doing this a little bit now, and so I'm excited to learn a little bit about kind of how you got started in it and what evolution you've seen in the industry. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So let's dive back into we were just getting into, you know, Lee is not from California. Lee grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Moved to New York and was kind of, is that where you started your creative career?
No.
Okay.
I started it in Cleveland.
Okay.
We had a senior project for high school.
I started back in high school.
Yeah.
It's true.
My first creative advertising gig.
It was.
That's
and
awesome.
My parents, my dad was in the food business, and he really wanted me to work with him, but I wanted to work in film, and I loved advertising, and I kept pushing, and I entered contests as a kid.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, like Name the Disc Jockeys.
Mm-hmm.
And won, at that time, probably a stereo worth $1,000. Name this, do this, write a slogan. And I had a shocking success rate locally for all kinds of little things. And I finally decided, well, I think I found my calling, and I really love that. And my folks knew the founders of Wise Advertising, a very famous ad agency. With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good. They did that. They were one of probably Ohio's most creative, best advertising firm and nationally regarded.
Yeah.
And he helped me get an internship there. And at first I was just punching on a calculator, and then it turned out that I was the only one under 28, 16, 17. And we had a local department store there, the equivalent of the local version of Macy's, and they had a record department. And they said, hey, Lee, you know, do you know B.B. King? And I'm like, duh, I'm 16, 17. Yeah, I know all of what?
Not personally,
but I know the music.
Yeah.
Do I know Led Zeppelin? Yeah, you know. So I started, they had a big record. At that time, records were a big thing. And they sold the records by playing commercials on the radio. So I ended up getting the gig in the agency to be writing the commercials for Higbee's record store. And there are other people in the creative department. They were like, let the kid do it.
Yeah.
And I really loved it, and I got to mix it, and I did a good job, and they ran, and I had fun doing it. And so they hired me on every summer until I graduated and went to college at U Denver and worked got a marketing degree.
Yeah.
Worked in advertising there.
When you're mixing and editing back then, that was all on tape, right?
All on tape. Splicing.
So cool. It's like a lost art form, yeah.
But even, when I was working in advertising in the 80s, working over the shoulder of an editor on a movie, the guy's splicing too.
Yeah.
So, seeing it from splice to digital, I did get to see that.
Yeah.
And knew how to do it.
Sure.
I had my own splicing stuff and everything. I could do all that.
Yeah.
But then in college, I continued it, and eventually I became the advertising director of the daily paper. It came out a lot. It was maybe 16 to 24 pages, 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept getting more and more ads because we would create the ads, and the people liked them. So me and another guy, one of my really closest friends, started to do that.
Yeah.
And then radio commercials, and so I was doing that in school. So I had a fantastic portfolio. By the time I graduated, it was analog days, but I sent out 50 letters and got a dozen interviews and got a handful of job offers.
What types of ads were influencing you in high school? What was the stuff that stands out as like, this is cool. I really like this. I think I could also do this.
I think the comedy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to remember, but when I see them on TV, they register, like the Tricks.
Yeah.
Rabbit, or I Want My Mapo, or jingles and songs and crazy stuff.
Give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything.
Exactly. Exactly. That kind of stuff. And I could do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
So you've been kind of creatively writing then for since then, and you still continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to derail and talk about the things that are happening now yet. I want to continue to hear a little bit about kind of the trajectory here and what ultimately brought you out here to California. But walk me through that. So now we've graduated. We've got a marketing degree. We're still in Denver at this point.
No way would I stay in Denver.
Okay.
No, because I had aspirations.
Sorry, Colorado.
I love Colorado, as you may know. And I had a place in Telluride for 20 years that I'm sorry I don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But my mission was to have my own advertising agency.
Yeah.
So you knew at that point even that you wanted to own your own shop.
Yeah, and I wanted to also do films and TV, and that's, I'm doing that today still.
Yeah.
But had offers from Chicago and New York, and I took a job at Marsteller, New York. That's now a Y&R company, and
which is now a VML company.
Right.
It's like
pick a name. I can't believe that. Us alumni, we have alumni Facebook pages. Yeah. They can't believe it. But in those days we had training programs where they had it was kind of like the Marines. They hired 20 of what they consider the best and brightest.
Yeah.
They figure 5 will make it, which is about right. And the people that I knew then are still friends of mine now.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a whole thing then. So unlike a regular job, we were taught how to present and presentations in terms of laying them out. And of course, we didn't have computers. We had slides, but setting all that stuff up. And
was there a time that you presented on like the foam core boards too, or was
there a time? There were years.
Okay. Yeah.
And there were years when we would present in a carousel slide projector, and of course, a million jokes where you're going into a pitch and it's a full, 60 slide carousel.
Yeah.
You got to change out.
And then the friggin' account guy drops it.
Yeah, you're trying to put them back in order, and
they're upside down.
See, it's always the account guy's fault.
Well, that usually, because they would carry it because they didn't trust us to. But that happened a lot.
Yeah.
So many stories like that. I can't. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's gotten easier to do what you do with the advent of technology, or do you miss the days where it was so much more manual?
That is a great question. And all of my colleagues and I talk about it.
Yeah.
They're all now older guys, but I was always the nerd. So I'm an early adopter of any technology. I'm the first person that ever had an iPhone. When I went to Thompson, I learned DOS, And I was the only person in the agency, other than a couple people in accounting, and there were 2,000 people in the building,
Yeah.
had a computer.
Yeah.
And people would walk over like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
So that was part of the deal I made with James Patterson. I said, I have to have a computer.
Yeah.
And typical of him, he plucks his sweater and goes, what do you need that for? I'm like, well, it's like a new thing. He still writes, as I told you.
Yeah.
And I'm told.
Wow.
But I really like that. And that also opened a lot of doors to me because I became the creative guy that embraced tech. So
Sure.
a lot of tech stuff, when companies have choices on who in the second tier of management should run accounts, I'd get picked to do the tech stuff, which of course I love.
Yeah.
So, but to answer your question, I guess I miss it, but I do like the new stuff.
Yeah.
You can be a lot better. It's kind of scary actually,
Yeah.
because it's really good.
Does it make it too accessible for people that maybe shouldn't be in this industry to kind of put their hat in the ring though? I guess what I'm saying is I feel like you earned your spot, right? You did all those steps. You've been in all those meetings. You've built those slide decks and those foam core boards. Like that is hard work, right? The advent of new tools makes it more accessible for everyone. Is there a limiting factor or an unlimiting factor there that, you're kind of like, no, this is too easy now, Everyone's going to do it.
Well, I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But I don't think they know good from bad.
Yeah.
But you can be a good prompt engineer and a thinker and create pretty good stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a certain instinctual thing too that comes from like being a master mechanic.
Yep.
Say versus putting a computer up against it for
Sure.
pure diagnosis. And it's kind of like that to
Yeah.
me. So, because so many people now and I think it's very often not necessary because the media landscape has changed. I don't think you need a brilliant creative guy to be writing Facebook
Sure.
posts and driving retail traffic to
Right.
the donut shop across the street. Maybe you come up with a creative viral idea, but even AI will help that. But I think the key is still there's a certain level of talent that you're going to have a good idea just from experience of knowing what's what. Take medicine. I'm sure that AI can do a bunch of radiology reads really quick, but a doctor and the human part of that equation and consciousness and things that may not be purely science can bring new thinking to it and maybe come up with different solutions.
Sure.
But I think AI is going to take over advertising. It is.
Yep.
I was going to say that people could barely complete sentences before, but I feel now everyone has become so great with grammar.
Right. That kills me the most, man. I could write really good letters and texts and pitches and chat, and now
anybody can. You can put a half-broken English prompt into ChatGPT, and it will spit out a perfectly grammatically correct response for you.
Yeah, and you can work on the tone of it too.
Yeah.
And it's good.
And it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. And then a guy like me I was never a visualizer, but was a pretty good conceptual writer, but I'd partner with my art director. But now I can be an art director too. I could never do that.
Yeah.
So I can create my own layouts and stuff like that it would take me forever. And now it's quick.
Yeah.
Do you use AI yourself for copywriting? I know for me personally, my background is moderately in copywriting, and sometimes I second guess what I write, and I'll throw it in to ChatGPT just to ask it to clean it up.
It depends.
I never questioned my writing before until this thing came around.
Yeah, I think that's true too. But sometimes I'll ask for opinions, of which, if it agrees with my gut, I'm like, oh yeah. But I would say, of course, I do, but for research, but also as a pretty close to expert in AI, I probably use 8 types. And as a guy that is a screenwriter that just wrote a romantic dramedy that revolves around AI as well, so I had to really learn it because the film idea is set 10 years into the future.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research and talked to some people that worked in the field too, so it would be fairly accurate. But future tripping too, and and comedic. I do use it, and if I'm in a hurry too, and it's, the other day my sister said, we got to write this thing for Mom, and my sister is a Ivy League MBA analytical person, so anything of any family matter, I get asked to write the invitation, write the thank you note. So I would then go to AI quickly and say, and then I would tweak it a little bit, but things like that. But in the course of doing my freelance work and so on, generally not, although Don and I, my partner in Creative Lytics, just did a campaign for a company called Links. It's an AI company that helps car dealers sell cars by knowing people driving by where they know the car on the lot and all about. It's an amazing product. Cool. But we did a full AI commercial, and we used an AI production company. It would have cost us, and Don and I, would do commercials that were $500,000. The commercial we did, I think we paid these guys because they're experts. The way you used to hire a web designer, a web developer back a decade ago plus, they created the whole thing, and we got to interject and so on, and it was about a $50,000 commercial that looked like $1 million.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, and you can control
and that's
camera
what's happening.
angles and
Everything, camera angles, change the dialogue, change the person. It was amazing, and that I see that going with advertising production. And the talent, right?
The talent is going to be an issue here with.
Well, they didn't need it. They had no rule that they had to, so the talent was manufactured talent.
Yeah.
Wow.
The voices were manufactured voices. The music was created and stock type, but we even scored it. It was all non-residual stuff.
Yep.
That's where it's going.
Yeah.
Do you feel, and this is I'm seeing it too, in the creative process, usually it's creative and it's very human and it takes a while. And I feel now with AI, people have this expectation of immediacy where that they want the answer or the idea or the copy line now, where in the past, sometimes you got to step back and think about it, and it might take a while. Do you feel like urgency is pushing through the creative process and affecting it? And how long did it take to create the AI spot that you just did? Did that have an elongated timeline, or was that completely compressed because of the way you were doing things too?
It was compressed, and that's a great question too. I think the time to develop the ideas and copy is probably tight, but I don't see that for the bigger agencies with big multinational clients,
spot, right?
Or even drop it down a notch. Like I don't see TJ Maxx using AI to create their commercials. I don't think that they'd be doing that because they're kind of local and retail and vibey, and they want to use real people and they want to get a feeling. AI isn't quite there yet, and maybe the writers will brainstorm with it, the way you would with a person, but I don't think they're actually just doing it. But this Links commercial, we probably showed him a half a dozen, but those were all thought up by us. We didn't even use it.
Yeah.
But then when we refined it and went to the studio, they got it done in just a few weeks, which would have taken a few months. We would have had to bid it and cast it, right?
Yeah, all the locations and wardrobe.
And we didn't worry about changing stuff. That was the amazing thing.
Yeah.
We wiped out whole scenes, and then we added other things. And it was kind of like what you do if you were just doing a radio commercial, just as simple as bringing someone in to just do a different read or something. Easier.
Yeah. This spot would be a lot cooler if they were out on the campsite roasting s'mores over a campfire.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go.
That's the danger, though.
Yeah.
The permutations are infinitesimal, and it's a tool for clients to go down the rabbit hole even worse than they normally would, because you can't say
no
time
anymore.
and you can't say time and money because it's pretty negligible for either.
Yep. Yeah, and I think to that extent, we oftentimes, making decisions can be hard, right? But when I'm in a creative process and a client understands maybe the limitations of what we've got, or what we've got, what we've got budget to do, or what we've already got in the can and can work with, it almost, because it is more finite in the amount of decisions you have to make, it makes that process easier. Whereas now I'm in an AI world, and some armchair quarterback at the last minute goes, that would be really cool in front of a campfire, and the client goes, well, sure, let's see it, but it almost becomes this, because it's so infinite, it can make it harder to maybe fine tune that concept or fine tune those decisions, because everyone you can make those permutations to the content at such a late hour,
No doubt this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm positive.
I mean, I
People
know
are
when I
being
go to
driven crazy.
when I know when I go to a store, if there's too many options, you're like, oh my gosh, it's almost harder for me to pick the one. And the store is thinking, we're making this great for you because the options are limitless. You're going to get exactly what you looked for. But sometimes I just want to
decide.
I just want three. Give me three, and I'll pick the one that fits me the best. And so it's.
And clients like options.
Yeah,
because
I know.
they're often fear-based. So that way, if the boss doesn't like it,
The challenge is when
fix
there's
it.
clients and not client. It makes it, if you have an open, like to Evan's point, an open amount of ideas, nobody's going to agree, and it just drags it out.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So I appreciate our conversation and kind of the future and how this has evolved into AI. I don't want to derail 100% from, we're now in New York and I'm working in an ad agency and I'm experiencing what that feels like, right? And now, I don't know how old you are here living in New York and doing that, but you're doing the grind, you're on the train. This is Mad Men life happening. Is that what I'm?
Well, this was the 80s, so Mad Men was a little old for me.
Yep.
So instead of martinis, it was cocaine, probably. Floating around. Yeah, Y&R had an undercover account person that did a cocaine bust. It was so rampant. For real.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Wow.
I always thought it was funny because creatives, they would come in late and they wouldn't start working until everybody left the office at like 5 o'clock. The normal people are leaving, and the creative guys finally are like, all right, it's time to get to work, everyone.
It was, yeah, that occurred a lot, I would say, too.
There was
But,
some fuel happening after hours, huh?
That was never my thing, but it was,
It
because
was a thing.
I don't even drink, but I can tell you it was massively prevalent.
Yeah.
In fact, at Y&R, there was a story, a fellow named Jeff Lovinger, who directed the Jamaican tourism spots, was arrested with a ton of pot in his suitcase leaving the country. And you can imagine Y&R and the CEO, and we were doing the tourism, nothing I had to do with, but that was an axiomatic metaphor for the shenanigans that were going on.
Yeah.
But from there, I just so you know, I mean, I was a trainee. I lived in Manhattan for I didn't for a decade. I'd take the train or walk to work, and slowly got better and better accounts, and got to work on some nice brands there, like Dan and Yogurt was one of my favorite accounts that I got to work on, which was our cherry account, and the agency launched the R5, branded it Le Car. I was too young to go, but the first client ride and drive around a track, one of the art directors rolled and totaled the car.
Oh man.
But things like that happen in the course
Yeah.
of my career. Everybody was fine, but the client was kind of pissed off. But I mean, I had that happen with my agency where one of our art directors for when we were doing Yokohama, we were doing off-road stuff and decided to do some Baja-style driving and smashed up one of their show cars,
Oh, man.
So, it happened. I had lots of stories like that.
Yeah. What year
that
did,
one wasn't funny because I had to go to the client
And explain to them.
yes, and be truly upset, and swore it wouldn't happen again because we could have been fired. They were clearly angry at the irresponsibility of the agency.
Sure.
So that was a great moment.
What year did you start your agency then?
Mid '90s.
Yeah.
No, maybe later '90s. But I didn't just start one.
Yeah.
Because the way it worked is I worked for Marsteller, and then I was hired away, and then I got a great gig at McCann Erickson. working with some of the most talented people I'd ever worked with. And my boss was Bill Backer, who's a very famous ad guy from Mad Men days. He was older to me then. I was in my 20s, and he was probably 50. He wrote, I'd like to buy the world a Coke, and did Make It Michelob. Make It, Let It Be Lowenbrow, and many songs. And that was his thing. But I got to work on the launch on Miller Lite beer. I was one of the key writers on the brand, won a Con Lion, and I work with incredibly talented people because our group was kind of a creative group where they had to have really great, funny advertising, and we're using ex-athletes. So I got to do a handful of those and was working on that, and then got to work on Coke and other brands too. So that started me off with a fantastic reel, because and I got to work with great people, Rodney Dangerfield, as the talented commercials he wrote. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And then from there, I continued my path, being somewhat of a mercenary, because in advertising you kind of get so high if you're a younger person, and then you kind of get stopped because there are too many people ahead. And sometimes you're rewarded better by leaving when another agency has a slot, and that happened to me. And I got an offer from Young and Rubicam, which was probably one of my more important jobs.
Was that in New York also?
Yeah, and I was like a copywriter, and I went to, up the food chain, like military rank, copy supervisor, and I was an associate creative director. And then, so at one point at Y&R, I was the key creative guy on Dr. Pepper, and worked on a lot of the famous work with that, and inherited the I'm a Pepper stuff, and then continued that. And I was put on the basis of he'll be easy to work with Bill Cosby, because he runs through writers. Lee can handle him, which I did, and I'm sorry Bill got into trouble, but my relationship with him was always great, and he always did right by me. I couldn't get off of it because it was working, and I worked with him for many years on all those scripted Jell-O commercials. So him with those kids was script.
Yeah.
Not him being cute and funny, but he pulled it off.
Like the pudding stuff?
Yeah, all the pudding stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
That's like legendary from my days as a kid.
yeah, and then and from there, the agency had great accounts. So worked on Procter and Lincoln Mercury and Cadbury. And we do Chicken Right, KFC, and worked on that. And got to know all the franchisees. So I was working with really big accounts as the senior creative guy. And I had a fantastic boss that mentored me. And then I got stolen away from there by James Patterson, who said, you'll be running a good portion of the agency. And I was about 36.
Okay.
And that was a great opportunity, because I didn't see that happening at Y&R, because there were a lot of talented people that were ahead of me. So I went there, and that was kind of a high-risk job, because the day after I got there, I probably had 100 reports at Y&R. I maybe had 20 people.
Oh, yeah.
That I was working with. So it was a completely different thing.
Sure.
And James was a different kind of boss. He was quiet, and he kind of hole up and let his lieutenants make it happen, and then he would be the editor. Incredible mind and editor. But the day after I got there, I'm talking to everybody. What do you need? As the new boss, you want to get to know people.
Sure.
And you want to see how they are. And James' attitude was, hey, if you don't like any of them, make changes, which he would always do all the time. And many people, I said, James, they're talented. And if many of these people went on to work at Cheers and write hit films, that agency had more talent of any place I ever worked.
Wow.
Massive talented people across the board. But they're all going, we're going to lose the Burger King account. Now, that's $150 million. The agency maybe billed $1 billion. So I went in his office and said, James, what's with the Burger King thing? Like, people are telling me it's going up for review. He says, no, it is in review. I said, you didn't tell me that. He goes, if I told you, you wouldn't have taken the job. I said, I could go back to Y&R. He says, no, you won't do that. Don't worry about it. Which is, it'll be fine. We ultimately saved the account, but that was a classic. We were like the cowboy. We were a cowboy cultured agency. It was a great learning experience because Y&R was very gentlemanly and organized and a lot of packaged goods. And Thompson was creative and wild ideas for a big agency. And James had complete control of the creative department, and the account people would do anything he said. And so we got a chance to do some big level creative work. Yeah. And by the way, circling back, because I was the only guy with a computer, one day he walked in and said, hey man, IBM and Sears is coming up with this thing. It's like you can talk on your computer or something. You and Phil ultimately went on to work in tech. You guys handle it. And that became what I branded as Prodigy, which was before AOL, you know, and did all the work and all the commercials about you can chat, you can do all this cool stuff with the computer, and was one of the first beta test sites. On my computer at work. So I really had an early. Of course, people always say to me, "So you must have invested, made a lot of money because you know this." No, I never did. Never thought of it.
No, I said I was into tech, not finance.
Never thought of that. Yeah.
That's a good answer, man. Anyways,
You can borrow it.
another day, the CEO, Burt Manning, came. He says, "You're like the Hollywood guy, right?" Because I was always submitting scripts, and I go, "Well, I write films." He says, "Oh, there's our client from the LA office from Universal. Just talk to him and show him around." So this was the producer of a bunch of shows from Universal, who I became pretty good friends with then. And of course, he says to, "You know that I'm not going to let pass." I go, his name was Jim Corus. I said, "You know, I'm a writer." He says, "Oh, well, did you watch our shows?" One was The Equalizer. I said, "Oh, yeah. But you guys don't use any of the New York locations, right? It's clear you guys are all writing it from LA." He says, "Oh, you can do better?" I said, he says, "Okay, send me an idea or two." So I did, and sold some scripts to him. So I was very excited because then I said, "Oh, there you are. There's a little opening, you know." And later on, after being there about 4 or 5 years, James, I felt, was going to be there forever. So I did not see myself running the creative department. And there were other very talented people. Linda Kaplan, who created Kaplan Thaler, a billion-dollar agency, was one of my colleagues, and other really talented people. And my friends from Y&R called me up and go, "We know you always wanted to move to LA. So if you want to take a job at our LA office, being the chairman of our LA office and executive creative director." And I did. So I moved really a job that was very high level and highly prestigious to a branch office of a multinational.
But it was one of the steps in your ultimate goal, which was to find your way in towards Hollywood and LA. Yeah.
So this is probably early 90s? Okay.
And so I worked at their office was Lord Denson Partners, which was another joint venture like their current name. And it was a joint venture of Dentsu, Japan's largest agency, in Y&R. So it wasn't a Y&R brand, but it was pretty great because we had a lot of clients already, and the agency was doing adequately but not great, and they really needed a good creative director, and I was a good creative director. So we built the agency really quickly. Must have won a dozen accounts in 2 years. And I'm talking big accounts like Dole Foods. And I always thought, oh, maybe this will be my trip back to be running Y&R New York. But then I realized I had an interview at DDB Chicago. Once they had solicited me, and I flew out there, and it was April. Bad time to go, of course. And I remember the rain hitting the window at about 90 degrees, and I said, you know, if they are, I can't do it. I love California. I was very happy here. So I decided I couldn't be had to be moved anywhere, and decided pretty much that and the other things I liked would keep me in California.
Yeah.
And I probably would have stayed at Lord Dentsu that had and AKA Y&R, they had a great stock program. And I mean, you could do extremely well there. In fact, they sold the company. So many of those people that had that stock got, like when Microsoft went public, they went public. So had I stayed, I probably would have done well. But we won a very large pitch, which was Mazda's luxury car at the time that the Infiniti came out, called the Amati. And my partner, Leonard Pearlstein, who had one of the most creative agencies in LA, but they had solicited him, and he was the account guy who I adored, said, you people, and he had his own agency. This agency should be equity partners. So what happened is he went to Japan and said, I really think you need to do this for the team, and he got fired over it. And I said to myself, shooting the messenger and this guy, and I remember I drove to his house when I found out, because I was told at dinner separately from him, and I remember we were saying, what do you think this is about? Why are they splitting us up at this dinner that we didn't even imagine? I said, Leonard, why don't we just quit? And he's like, no, I did that. If you want to do that, you do that, but I've had it. So I said to the Y&R team, and the guy that brought me out there, I said, hey, if you don't do this for the staff, I'm going to quit. And he says, well, we'd need some time. And I said,
You have 3 minutes.
72 hours, 3 days.
Okay.
And they go, then the Japanese guys who I liked were going, Lee-san, you don't understand. Dentsu has a 100-year plan for this office. I said, these people are like pro ball players. They don't have a 100-year plan.
Yeah.
They have a career life of this long. So the time came and I quit. And then I was instantly hired away to be a partner in a Japanese partially owned American ad agency, rebranded Kovel Fuller and Partners. It was a very well-known Los Angeles ad agency that had fallen on hard times, but they needed an infusion of creative talent because their creative director had retired, and they did some poor mergers and did a really good job turning that around.
Yeah.
And we were doing pretty good until one day they said, and still owned by the two, but I was an equity partner. They said, Lee, I have good news for you. We're going to sell the Japanese. We're going to sell our part to J. Waller Thompson. And I go, and the head of J. Waller at LA was a buddy of mine. He calls me, hey man, we'll be working together. I go, why the fuck would I go back to J. Waller to be running a branch office when I could have been running New York? And
Doesn't that stuff usually get merged up under whatever local office they have as well?
that's what was going to happen. They were going to
Yeah.
put us into there.
Yeah. And your job becomes irrelevant and redundant at that point.
Yeah, well, I was going to get the job, but why would I want to be working at a branch office of J. Walter now when I had my own advertising firm?
Right.
And it was going great, and I had enough self-confidence that we were doing well, getting accounts, nice people, fantastic clients. Kaiser Permanente, at the time Winston Tire was in business. It was a huge retailer, some really great accounts. I loved the job. So I said, no. I'm not going to do it. So I said, but I'll buy it. So they said, well, we're not going to do that. I said, well, then I'll quit. And if I quit, I have no non-compete in my contract.
Yeah. Well,
I'll quit and take my chances.
Yeah.
So here's the best part. Those guys from Daiichi Kike called the Dentsu guys and said, so what do you know? What's he going to do? And the Japanese guys, he's crazy.
He's leaving.
He left us in 3 days. He will quit. So they sold the agency to me and my future partner, John Fuller.
wow.
Oh,
And
good.
I had met John, and we dated a bit, teamed up. So we bought the agency.
Was he an art director or
No,
an
he
account
guy, great account guy.
Okay.
Same background as me.
Yep.
Doyle Dane Bernbach, New York, account guy, great strategy guy. Della Femina, account guy. my age. We were
I
a
like-
perfect match
It's
of
like the yin to
contrast.
the yang. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that earlier you used the term mercenary, because I'm seeing a mercenary here
me
right
too.
now. Yeah.
You actually act
You were-
on what you say. Yeah.
And you were playing chess, not checkers.
No, I was, because
Yeah.
I thought I could do it.
Yeah.
And John and I then had an agency for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And we did very well. You know, and at one point we were probably, if not the largest, one of the top 3 completely independently owned ad agencies.
What doesn't, are you able to say what does an agency cost back then? Like, what did you guys pay for that business?
It's hard to remember, but
Was it hundreds of thousands? Was it millions?
oh no, it was well over millions.
And then how did you guys find that funding?
We borrowed the money and pledged our homes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you went all in.
Yeah, yeah. If we fucked up, we lost our houses. We had a lot of incentive,
Yeah.
but we
yeah.
didn't think
no
we
option.
would.
Yeah,
John had a little agency too, and we had enough of a track record too that we didn't think we would.
Yeah.
And we went on to get some great clients, Pacific
So-
Life, and we launched a ton of huge companies here in Orange County. Ditech, when it was nothing, to $1 billion. Greenlight Commercial, when it was 3 guys, to $1 billion. And as these clients grew, they started with $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month.
Greenlight's
fees.
financial lenders, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, those guys-
suddenly now we have accounts billing $30 million, and we're placing the media. My partner was a very smart guy. We had a media department.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Yokohama,
And back then you took a percentage of the buy, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
negotiated. Agencies, I think, still do that. Not 15%. It slowly got ground down to 12, 10, 7,
Yeah.
sliding scale. But we had a really great agency with a lot of people that I still think are fantastic. And
So you did this over 20 years with Kovel Fuller, right? Before did you end up selling that?
yeah,
Yeah.
And you got your house back then.
Oh, yeah, it did burn down in the Palisades fire.
Yeah, I think you bought a couple more too.
But sold it, and John had a younger son who was running 40, and his son wanted to go into the gaming business, and he had a lot of experience with Microsoft and some of the other big gaming companies. And so John said, "Hey, man, if you ever want to retire, I'm either going to bankroll Steve or I'll buy you out because I know you wouldn't want to do it."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I think you're crazy to do it." But so I talked to my then significant other, now wife, and she said, "Why wouldn't you do
Yeah.
it?" She was a finance person, MBA. She says, "Look, look at what the multiple is, because that's
Sure.
how agencies sell. You're small. Talk to people who's going to buy it." So I talked to a ton of people that do agencies together, and I thought this was a win-win for
Yeah.
me and for John, even though I wasn't ready mentally.
Sure.
But it was kind of like opportunity again out of the blue. So I was worried because I remember saying to her, "What am I going to do?" And she
Yeah.
laughed and said, "Are you kidding me? You'll be busier than you used to
Yeah.
be." So that's what I did.
So having done that for over 20 years on your own, and all the experience leading up to that before this, one thing that I guess one trend I'm hearing is that you were able to find some really good clients, and it's not all good clients are not always about the ones that are willing to pay you the most, but they're about the ones that you connect with the best, right? What in your mind has really led to your success there in finding those clients, and also vetting clients that you would consider a good client because they're great to work with too?
Well, first of all, because my partner was such a good business guy, we had to make money on the account. And we
Yep.
learned that lesson when we took some flyers, and it just was too
Didn't
much
pan
time.
out, yeah.
I think you get a good sense of how easy they're going to be to work with, and how much work they're going to want, and whether your brand of advertising, because our brand, I think we had a brand. Our brand was bootstrapping entrepreneurial people that were outspent by their competitors dramatically, that needed creative work, strategic work, fast turnaround and good thinking.
Yep.
That wouldn't gouge you.
Yep.
So with that, especially in Southern California, there are a lot of clients like that. And when we got to know them, they would, we would date. We would start small. We always said we have a no cut contract in terms of anytime you want to fire us, you can do so. And that made them feel comfortable because we were competing with DDB. We would be competing with big Saatchi. We competed with Team One. We competed with a lot of bigger brand agencies.
Yeah.
So that helped us because then the mistakes that they made wouldn't cost the marketing director his job if we screwed up. And I would say that we had a great track record with our clients. We didn't get fired.
Yeah.
And many of my clients, I would say 75% of them I'm buddies with to this day.
Yeah.
Some
that means a lot,
friends.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, best friends. Best friends.
Yeah.
Probably one of my very best friends, Alan Gladstone, who hired us from Anna's Linens. And we built them up from 100 and some odd stores to like 350 stores and so on. And again, competitive brand against Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yep.
And we would do funny commercials like we put him on as a spokes and he'd draw a coupon and it would animate and say, you don't need one of these at our place. So it was kind of light comedy, hard retail.
Yeah.
And then Sizzler restaurants we did. And very often, when these clients do vendor of the year and partner of the year, we often won that because we had such a great impact on their sales. And we had big clients too, Time Warner, Disney. We did all of Disney's gaming work for quite a while.
Yeah.
And the Time Warner cable guys. And Yokohama Tires is actually still a client of the team of the agency.
Wow.
That handled the account even when I was there.
Yeah. So stuff that seems probably so simple and so obvious to you in terms of gaining business and in terms of keeping clients happy might not always be the same for everyone else, meaning not everyone else understands maybe the things that are ingrained in you in terms of keeping clients happy. What to you, in your experience over a very long tenured, successful career, what would you kind of attribute to what are the core tenets that you as an agency owner would be like, these are the things we need to knock out of the park in order to not get fired off that account? Because it sounds like you've got a really good track record at keeping clients happy and keeping clients long-term.
I do, and I had it even in New York, which is why at Thompson, whenever there was a problem account, I would get it. And then there was a point where, because we didn't lose it, the group of people that I worked in, we had a huge amount of the business of that office.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say listen. That's the first thing.
So they want to be heard.
Yeah. Keep your ego in check and know also what the politics is of the company and who's actually calling the shots. And don't do the wrong thing because you will pay for it. And if the point person's asking you to do the wrong thing, you better stand your ground, or at least have a record that you've pushed against it so hard you were driven to do the wrong thing. So you're not culpable of creating the screw up that was epic, which I saw happen, and I've been part of that. And ultimately it's trust, because they got to believe you're going to do the great job the next time, and you're only as good as your last ad. Trite but true. And these marketing managers have tough jobs. They're only as good as the sales numbers are in many cases.
Yeah.
So, but it depends on the clients. Like one of my most favorite clients was Eric Thompson from Mercury Insurance. The guy was a great creative guy, very demanding and great taste and creative, and pushed us a lot. And that was the thing.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Same with John Albers, the CEO of Dr. Pepper. He would say, he'd look at the stuff and he'd say, okay, I'll see you in the screening room. And then you screened it for him, nothing before or after. And he would say, he'd be like, we'd be watching him, he'd be like, and wouldn't air commercial.
Yeah. Wow.
And you would be you were pressured by the fact that he wanted great stuff, and if
Yeah.
and he had good taste too. Then I've had other clients where they were extremely difficult, and people would say, "How do you put up with it?" And I said, if we get big enough, probably they won't be here anymore. And
Yeah.
John and I would always talk about it, but there were times when we came that close, and then I'd say, I'm the one dealing with it, so I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Those clients, you just did the best you could do. And then it was more of an exercise in managing human behavior.
Yeah.
I had a client saying, no, I'm talking world-class music directors, like a notch below Hans Zimmer,
Yeah.
no names,
Yeah.
saying, no, the note's got to go the other way. Like, what the fuck? We would laugh, telling the DP how to do shot,
Yeah.
things like that. And by the way, this isn't a client that went to film school or walked around with a Nikon,
Sure.
So I had 10% like that.
Yeah.
Those were very memorable and very painful, but it taught me a lot of tenacity
Yeah.
and a lot of choice of controlling one's emotions
Yep.
for the betterment of the whole.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
give you an
No.
answer?
Yeah. Absolutely. So to paraphrase, and kind of what I heard there is, and they are all things that on the surface should be simple, core tenets. But I think you did a really good job, kind of paraphrasing that for us. But it's listening, right? It's earning that trust. It's just kind of like putting them forward, but also standing on your own integrity, right? Like those are all things that are really important in kind of keeping that relationship viable, right? When do you feel like you earn the right to push the envelope a little bit, though? Because I think one of those things that, you as a creative, you probably always have is like, oh man, it would be great if I could get them sold on this concept or this idea. I know it would work well for them, but oftentimes there's always someone, and I'll say in the sales department, that squashes that idea and goes, how is that going to move the needle in terms of sales? But the creative guy has this brilliance here, and how do I sell them in? How do I earn the trust as their creative partner to get them to maybe try something more raw or something a little more outside the box?
Conceptual rather than pure information.
Functional. Well, we never really did pure functional
Yeah.
advertising anyways, because it always, even on a retail client, it was always entertaining. Vince, who's the CEO of Greenlight, said the first week of that song, 866-66 faster, you've got the green light. He said he heard a kid singing it at his daughter's pool party.
That's where he
He
got
says,
the
I knew
idea.
we were going to make a lot
Yeah.
of money. But now, that was not creative genius,
Yeah.
but we said, let's do a jingle that's highly memorable.
Yeah.
And worked hard to do it
Yeah.
and came up with the name. They were
Yeah.
originally going to be called Certified Financial.
Yeah.
And we said, no, Vince, no.
doesn't sound good.
You do loons fast.
Yeah.
Call yourselves Greenlight.
Yeah.
It was a little more complicated than that, but that was it. But to answer your question, I think there are two ways. First, when they're a new client and they've fired an agency, so they're open to anything.
Yeah.
So you can aim really high and see how far they'll go. And then the other is after you've had a tenure of building trust
Sure.
and a track record. And of course, my agency had a nickname for me. The client would be FOL, Friends of Lee's. So the FOL would be, okay, if the marketing director is scared, I could go to the CEO and in confidence, like you would with
Yeah.
a friend or a family member, go, listen, I don't want to get Jim in trouble, but we have this idea and I really think we should do it. And the CEOs never got in trouble for doing that, would go, well, it's his thing. I don't want to get involved. Or he'd say, why don't we do a meeting together, and I'm going to call a meeting and see what you guys showed, and then he would make it happen. So you could do workarounds, but in general, it was, I'd say, a track record of success and trust. The more success you had, the more they take risks.
Yeah.
And if you screwed up, they didn't care.
Yeah.
it was like, okay, we tried something crazy.
I feel like back then people were building brands, and today people are selling products. Like it's almost like it's almost a different approach.
I think to an extent, but I can tell you that we were doing both. We were doing what we would call brand tail.
Yeah.
You know, but because we had many clients that literally either had to make a phone ring, Time Warner Cable, Greenlight, Ditech, or sell tires, or Mercury Insurance, or Pacific Life Insurance. We had very few clients that were brand like Nike,
Yeah.
you know, Coke, or big brands like McDonald's that would be doing a brand campaign. We would have literally Mimi's, Caro's, Coco's, and a few other restaurants that I'm blanking on. But that was like, what's the traffic this week? And it better be good because we just spent money on a limited time offer, you know, steak and lobster for $20, and it better drive traffic or we just blew $1 million.
Yeah.
So we had more of that type of client too. Although at JWT, of course, it was way more brand.
High level,
Yeah, because, you know, Dick Clark's rocking New Year's Eve and Miller Lite's running on the Super Bowl from when I worked at McCann. And, you know, those were just, image was everything.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a beer.
Where do you find the most fulfillment in your career? Is it I mean, there are always those dream clients that you just know are going to be really fun to work with, and they're going to have great brand cachet, and they're going to be great to talk about, small talk. You know, when you meet someone and you drop a client name, everyone knows them. Versus there's the ones that probably came to you when they were more in a distressed state and needed your help, and you were able to progress them to such an extent and have more of a thumbprint probably on their brand's ultimate success. Where do you find where do you kind of measure the personal fulfillment between helping that little guy grow to something that is monumental versus I get to work on the thing that already is monumental? It already has such a look and a feel that it's fun to work on that, but you probably don't feel as much of yourself in those projects, maybe, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
And I think it depends where you're at in your career. I think I was fortunate that I timed it the perfect way because I mentor a few people in advertising, and I had just talked to a guy that I've been helping along with his career, and I said, no, Taco Bell, man, you want to do that because that's a great marketing brand of Pepsi. Don't leave Chicago and that really good agency you're liking the little clients. You need the pedigree. So I was very fortunate that I had Con Lions and Effies and other creative cred stuff on big accounts, and it was fun seeing stuff on network TV venues.
Hey.
But when I came to a smaller market where many of those clients weren't here, I really enjoyed the founders of the company that had their blood, sweat, and tears in it. You know, I was integral. So I got a tremendous amount of satisfaction when we'd win like vendor of the year out of everybody they worked with, and the guys saying, you know, our sales have never been better, and people got bonuses, and you know you're really a part of something that's happening. Yeah. So I kind of like that. And of course, seeing businesses with literally 2 or 3 people, and then they're in, you know, half of the skyrise over by the Spectrum 4 years later, and you were the only marketing company. They had no marketing director, by the way. Some of these companies didn't. We did it, the whole thing. That was very fulfilling to build businesses. And those people don't forget it. Even if they're long gone from the businesses, anytime I call any of these clients, they'll start reminiscing about, man, we really, you know, kind of like brothers in arms probably that are on missions. They were very grateful, and we look back on it as a great moment in our careers.
Yeah. Do you have any anything that stands out as like the I've made it moment in your career? Like holy cow, never thought I'd have the opportunity to do that, and now it's, you know, it's a thing, or have you had any of those that really stand out to you as like big benchmarks, like or goals?
Probably yes, but I would tell you then that they're immediately put by the wayside because the bar's moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem I
Yeah,
have. I
yeah.
think I'm never one of those people that's like, oh,
You're not
Got
you're not satisfied with what, but you might
It's a
set a
problem.
goal. You hit the goal, and then the goal just
the goal was
elevates.
be a creative director
Okay.
of a big New York ad agency,
Yep.
which I was not. I was only a group creative director, but I worked for a great guy and great people. And, and by all intents and purposes, I could rationalize, okay, you know, $500 million worth of stuff, and then have my own firm and win a Cannes Lion. Never won a Palme d'Or, but my very talented partner, Don Eason, I think has won 2.
Yeah.
For Infinity and for John Hancock, those 2 famous campaigns. Work with great talent, yes. Do some outstanding creative work
Yep.
that I particularly was fond of. And there's singular commercials that you wouldn't even know, like when Los Cabos was not a destination, I did a commercial for them that won a lot of awards, and that's one of the commercials that I happen to love a lot. And working on fancy brand, like working on a hit TV show.
Sure.
So, you know, that would be that. And then moving to LA, being the head of an agency was a big thing, and then having my own.
Yep.
But on my own, then I said to John, "No, we got to." John and I agreed. No, we were in 10,000 square feet. But we had an extra, so we wanted to be big enough to have about 150 employees.
Yeah.
But I think we maybe had 75 at our biggest
peak.
So I would say that bar never reached.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my passion projects, films, television, still doing it.
Yep.
Produced and had a few Christian films done with friends that did well and shows, and still writing theatrical films and selling them.
Yep.
And still doing that. Have one done now. So I'm still dabbling as a passion project to get that as well. So I have that going, you know, having finished that. I was just talking to my agent about that the other day. I have a fabulous agent. I said, "You haven't sold it yet." He says, "Lee, it's been a week." but you know, he said too, "Well, we will." He says, "You're one of the more talented writers I have, but you're definitely the hardest working." So I took that as a very high compliment.
Yeah.
That meant more to me than a benchmark.
I want to see that parlay into my next question. And I think that you used the word earlier that I really like, and in reference to how you found success, and it was the word tenacity. And I'd love for you to tell me, what do you think, like what advice would you give to someone that is trying to follow in your footsteps and wants to be where you are at the end of their career, but I'm just starting? What advice would you give to someone to find the success that you have found
In advertising?
or
Or filmmaking? I think it's gotten a lot harder because I don't think the human equation is as important to companies as it used to be. And the guy like James Patterson picking me out of dozens of candidates he had and say, "You're the guy for the job."
Yeah.
I think it's a lot. The headhunters would probably go through Indeed, and there'd be 2,000 resumes that were sent in, and you're just a piece of chatter and chaff, you know, and I think it's more challenging. But the few guys that I met, I say, well, do some things yourself that are going to make you stand out,
Yeah.
even if it's on a small scale. Try to get into somewhere good at any price or free.
Yeah.
And then knuckle down and do anything that's required. So you're going to keep your job and you're going to win the people over. So they're going to want to see you succeed. And then also go out and find people and mentors that are going to be able to help you and give you advice and give you contacts.
Yeah.
My daughter's an artist. She lives in Paris. She's got a show at Art Basel this week, which is a
Wow.
big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big
That's a
deal.
huge
30-year-old
deal.
girl.
Yeah.
And she just had an article about her work in Freeze magazine, which is a huge deal too. And I was just talking to her on the way here, and I said, "That's pretty good." She said, "Dad, you won't believe it. I went to school with the girl that was publishing The Writer. And Dad, remember, I interned and I was a writer at Freeze. And now 8 years later.
Here I am being featured.
And,
Yeah.
and I met her again, and she said, if you ever have anything, let me know. And she said, I was really embarrassed to call her. And I said, I'm really glad you did.
Yeah.
Because who you know makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I think the equation for her at a fairly young age was like, yeah, that matters.
Yeah.
And I think that story is axiomatic
Yeah.
to people willing to help you. And
Yeah.
then, of course, don't get pigeonholed. And if it's not working out, quit and
Yeah.
get another job. Without a doubt. I saw so many of my friends that just were comfortable and they were lazy and they wouldn't take risks. And that is mandatory based on my experience. I'm positive if I hadn't taken a lot of risks and people said, you're out of your mind to move to California.
Sure.
Why would you leave this job? Why would you go to that agency that's screwed up just for a piece of equity? Because I thought I could do it. I mean, don't be stupid, but if you think you can and you've got the cred, get your hand on the wheel and drive.
Yep. I like that.
So I would say that.
Yeah, I like
There's
that
some
too.
really good advice in there.
Okay?
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim, is there anything that, I know that we don't get an opportunity all that often to speak to someone that's got as much experience as you in this. And I just want to say for myself, this has been a really enjoyable conversation. Every time I get the opportunity to chat with you, I feel like I learned something new and I take something away, and I thank you for that gift. Is there anything, Tim, that you wanted to ask while we've got him here?
No, I think it was just so great hearing your story. I was obviously a couple years behind you, but we followed in similar paths, I feel like, and everything you said resonated really well with me, and it makes me think that the decisions that I've made and that Evan and I have made kind of follow very similar to what made you so successful. So to me, it seems like we're doing things the right way, and it's nice to kind of qualify it by talking to you. But yeah, I just appreciate your time, and I love the stories from advertising in the day. So I think that's the stuff that I'm really into. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
I can tell you the crazy ones off mic, but I got it. Your questions are great, so I've enjoyed it. But also, I think in looking at you guys are younger than me. You remind me a lot of my partner and I think you're poised in a great town, in a great area, at a great example where with the right moves, you will be extraordinarily successful. And I have a good track record of calling that, by the way. I've been around long enough where I've told people that, and they actually have been. Because I think you can kind of tell, and clients can tell that too.
Yeah.
So that's why you guys have the knack, you guys have the clients, you guys see the importance of relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is very unique, because most of the people that are people aren't that many in advertising.
Sure. Yeah.
That's right.
Too much ego.
Yeah.
Not enough relationship.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have that, and I think that's a secret sauce.
Well, that means a lot coming from you. And thank you so much for coming on and being a shady character with us today.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank
Thanks.
you.
My pleasure.
All right. What drew you to want to come to California?
When I worked in New York, I always wanted to work in television and film. And I had the opportunity then. I was kind of headhunted as a potential job out here, and it was a great job too, although I left probably a bigger job when I was a group creative director, one of a couple only, J. Waller Thompson. I worked for James Patterson for many years. He hired me. So
Never heard of him.
well, at the time, nobody had either. When I knew him, he was writing his first book.
Yeah.
I've heard of
Oh, yeah.
JWT though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I obviously got to work with the world's best-selling writer for
Yeah.
years, who is quite a character.
Yeah.
That would be its own